Sippers, welcome to this episode of the Tea With Me podcast with me, Shane Todd. As always, before we get stuck into this episode, we got to give a big shout out to our sponsors. First of all, Thompson's Tea. Punjana, the folks behind Punjana. You know these guys have been sponsoring the podcast for a long time, since Pussy was a kitten. They make the number one selling tea in Northern Ireland. They're killing it. These guys are top of the tree when it comes to local tea, and they can use that as a slogan if they want, but I don't know why they would because it's so bad. But they make their tea in Belfast. A lot of people think, oh, Punjana must come from somewhere really fancy. It doesn't. It's brewed here in the docks. It's not in the docks, but it would be better if it was. They make tea in Belfast, Northern Ireland's original. The rest are shit. Unless Thompson drops us as a sponsor, and then we got to take someone else on, in which case I can appear enthusiastic about any of their rivals, and that's a threat to Thompson's. Punjana's the best out there. Thank you for sponsoring our pod. We're also sponsored by Manscaped. Let's talk pubically. It's the taboo conversation a lot of young men aren't having. What's going on down below? Manscaped have the answer. The number one in men's below the belt grooming. You know what I'm talking about. It's 2022. Get with the program. Have the conversation with a mate. Say, mate, what's going on down there? Have the conversation. Manscaped have the Lawnmower 4.0 with wireless charging technology. You can take this thing in public if you want. You can shave yourself. You can shave a friend, an uncle, if it's all above board. Manscaped.com. Use the code TEAWITHME for 20% off and free shipping. I hate having to do that in front of guests. My guest today is... Sorry? London gig and Patreon. Sorry, Dan. Sorry, Dad. Sorry. Yeah, I've got to plug a Patreon, which is patreon.com/teawithmepodcast. You know, we do a bonus episode on a Monday. We do the live stream episode on a Friday. Patreon.com/teawithmepodcast. Sorry again, Dan, about that. I really apologise. Also, I'm doing London Leicester Square Theatre on the 21st of April, I think, or it could be the 18th, but it's probably 21st. Just check their website, basically, is what we're saying. It's a Thursday night. We sold out there a couple of months ago. We're doing it again. Dave LA is going to be doing support. We'll put the link 21st. Michael said 21st. And Michael had the decency to mime it and not say it out loud. Dan, so fuck you. My guest today is a singer-songwriter.
Yes.
Called Janet. I wasn't sure, like, because I don't know when do you say singer, when do you say singer-songwriter. Mm-hmm. I just want to get my terms right. Janet Devlin. Janet, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
Now, my first question for all guests is always, do you drink tea? If so, how often do you drink tea? What's the level of your tea drinking? Ooh. But you have rebuffed an offer of tea.
Yes.
And we've never met before, so that's how we've that's how we've met, is you rejecting the tea.
I did reject the tea.
So is this like a...
So I have to just be insanely depressed to drink tea. I don't know why it is. It's like the last chance
better?
to lose. Yeah, I think it's something about like my mum used to make me tea when I was a kid.
Right.
I was about to say when I was really depressed. No, when I was a kid, and for some reason it just takes me back to like that nice innocence of childhood.
Now, when you say a kid, what age were you starting drinking tea at?
I must have been like 5 years old.
Oh no, you shouldn't be drinking tea. That's cruel.
I know, right? But I was.
Full tea, like, because
actual tea. It might have been really milky, but like it was tea.
Right, so she's easing you in.
Yeah. Exactly.
It's hot milk, and she maybe just dip once.
Probably. Just
Because I used to I got into the tea game. My granny would leave me a bit. It's kind of gross. It's kind of
saying that out loud. Yeah, we bet.
Yeah. But she used to have, like, back in the day, everyone had loads of sugar, so it was like a sugary warm milk drink.
Yeah.
But you were at 5, just depressed at 5, and your mom's like, hey, don't worry about it,
have a cup of tea.
So you got exposed to tea too early, do you think, and now you're not as into it as you were?
I think it's because I actually can't really have milk, so I just avoid milk.
I'm an almond boy.
Yeah, I'm an almond boy, right? Okay, nice.
You on the substitutes?
So if I do make tea, I'd have like an oat milk or something in it.
Oat's nice.
Oat's a nice one, yeah, I appreciate it. I like what it's doing.
Do you know what I hate?
Soy.
Yeah.
It's disgusting.
Yeah. Why? Who likes it?
I don't know.
It's weird because it's the go-to alternative, but it's the worst.
It was for ages because I was vegan for a while back in the day, and before the cool meat substitutes, before the cool milk substitutes were available,
Right.
and it was just like you can have soy milk, and I was like, I would rather die.
I think also boys or men aren't supposed to drink it because it gives you breasts.
Yeah, that's what
Actually,
the
like,
term soy
genuinely?
boy comes from.
What?
Soy boy?
Is that real?
That's a real term.
Because it gives you if you have it gives you breasts.
It's just a term that people use online. They call each other soy boys.
I sort of want someone to call me. That's adorable.
You wee soy boy.
A soy boy. Damn, write that down. That's the name of the episode. But it
Apparently, it produces
estrogen in it?
estrogen and it gives you little man boobies.
Oh,
But I would say that would take so much soy. You'd have to consume way, like too much soy.
Yeah, but how much soy is too much soy? Any, I think.
I think it would be enough to be considered problematic if you're drinking it that much.
Yeah,
that you
so
get
bad.
man boobies.
So you were drinking tea at like full cups of tea at 5 is wild.
Yeah, because I was coming back from niche school because I spoke Gaelic, so
Right.
it was definitely tea. Yeah.
I think tea when you're down is the go-to thing here in this part of the world. Like people are like a cup of tea fixes everything, and there's a lot of people who are like, well, no, it doesn't.
Yeah, you call a suicide helpline and they're like, have you tried tea? Have you tried that?
And so many people will give it a go, and it actually works.
It actually made me better. Thank you so much. Yeah.
I think I drink more tea when I'm happiest. I think I'm the opposite.
Okay.
I mean, I just like. Well, then I don't.
Or
know,
are you just consuming that much tea that you don't know?
I don't know my emotions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or does tea make you happy, so you think you're happy when you drink tea all the time?
Tea definitely does make me happy.
Fair enough.
Since you moved to London, I want to chat to you a bit about that. I want to chat to you about your TV program that I watched. But do you feel like it was tea was something maybe you turned your back on when you moved to London because it's not as maybe metropolitan?
No, I just was hooked on black coffee for like a long time.
Right.
So I just constantly drank that, and now I'm like hooked on energy drinks, which is disgusting. And
That's
so
not
ashamed.
good.
It's so bad.
How many? Like, what's the most energy drinks you ever had in a day?
In a day, I've never gone above 3.
Even so, three's a lot.
It's sugar free, so I'm not going all out.
Then they put other stuff in it. Probably soy.
I know, but also like I used to be an addict, so I don't think a wee bit of fucking monster is gonna kill me. Okay,
it's probably a better trade-off.
I think so. If I'm gonna be addicted to something, I'd rather it be an energy drink than the bottle. You know?
Yeah, no. Energy drinks the worst kind.
Yeah, I know.
Let's talk about the program first of all that came out, if that's okay. I just watched it. I think it was very, very, very good, and also as someone who like does stand-up, kind of puts content out there. If you like, I'd be really nervous to do like a show like that because and we'll talk about what the show is, but you kind of open yourself up like massively to so many people.
Yeah, but luckily it's such a serious topic that you'd have to be a right asshat to be a douchebag about it.
Yeah, but it's about alcoholism, and especially alcoholism amongst like young ladies and girls, because I always associate, if you say the word alcoholic, I associate it first of all with guys, and secondly with like middle-aged guys, and old guys.
Yeah. It's never young women.
Yeah, it's not until I watched the program where I was like, oh yeah, well I knew of course there's like young women who are alcoholics, but it's not the go-to. And do you think there are people who don't take it as seriously, but like if you say like, oh, I'm an alcoholic, do you think there's people who like when you're young don't not respect? Do you get what I'm saying?
They don't
like,
take you seriously,
right?
Whatsoever,
right?
Which I still get. Like I still get people being like, "Oh, I've wrung more booze out of my tie than she's ever drank in her life," and I'm like, "Thanks, Steve. Appreciate it." But it's like I know in my heart of hearts that I'm an alcoholic, not only because of my lived experience, but through the people in my life that are like, you know, watch me nearly die on multiple occasions, and how much I was drinking and things like that. I'm like, no, it's fine. I'm fully qualified. It's all right. Like I know I'm an alcoholic, and it's
because
fine.
the thing here, especially growing up here, the thing is like, the more you drink, the more you're like respected. Yeah, almost. So
yeah. Because I remember getting applause in the sense of I had a guy on my tour who was a big guy. He was incredibly overweight. I think he's lost the weight now, but he was incredibly overweight at the time, and I could drink him under the table, and I was like 17 years old and very skinny, and people were like, wow, it's so impressive. And it's like,
Yeah, so they're like giving you a pat on the back for it.
yeah,
Yeah.
I could outdrink any man
Right.
at like 18 years old.
Yeah.
And that's not something you should be proud of. And it was always spirits. I think anyone could have drank me under the table with beer.
Right.
But like with whiskey, like straight whiskey, easy hands down champion.
But then let's go back. So the first time I ever saw you was when you did X Factor.
Mm-hmm.
And what age were you? You were 16?
16 then, yeah.
Did you, because like that brings like live gigs and the tour and that sort of thing. Was it like a overnight switch where people were like, here's booze if you want it, if that makes sense?
No, so I already had a really bad relationship with booze.
Right.
It started with me and a toxic first boyfriend. We used to like argue all the time because of the show. Like this is months before it was even known publicly that I was going on the show. He hated the show. He hated that I was going on it. He used to call me like, he was not supportive whatsoever. And we used to fight. And then to solve our arguments, we used to drink together a lot. And that was the start of my bad habit with booze.
Right.
But during the show I didn't drink at all, and then on the tour I was drinking just like everybody else that was on tour. It wasn't until I think it was pretty bad when I was living on my own, but a lot of it was boredom, I think.
Right.
But it was definitely the start of everything going south. And then by the time I got a fraudulent record label and I went from basically having everything to being bankrupt overnight, that pushed me over the edge. That was a tipping point.
Because I think when you hear a story like that, you like make up things and you judge it from the face of it. So I would have thought, oh, you probably never drank until the show started.
Yeah.
And then Simon Cowell shows up with 24 Magners. He's like, listen, let's go. But like, that's interesting that that problem started beforehand.
Yeah.
Because I was going to ask, did it come around because of the show and the pressures of that? But
no, because that would be like the more rock star answer, where it'd be like, yeah, I went on tour and I discovered booze and I lost my life to it. That would be so much cooler than, oh no, I had already a bad relationship with booze, which is unfortunately my true story. So
because like on the show, obviously, like you were real like shy, came across as like very nervous, which of course you're going to be at that age.
Yeah, you're a child on television getting judged by adult people who are just giving you slack constantly as grown adults. Great.
But was like, in my mind back then, and it's just in my mind, social media wasn't as big a thing.
Twitter was big.
Right, which is the most toxic.
Yeah, which is the best one to be popular.
Were you like checking that flat? And also you get told. Like even like friends and family will be like, you want to see what they're saying? Like, no one ever tells you.
You knew anyway. Like at the time, the two biggest things to check if you were in a bad mood was Twitter and digital spy forums.
Right.
Like if you.
What's digital spy
forums?
Oh
my God.
You don't have to be a spy to.
No. Okay. Digital spy was like this weird website where people who watch far too much television go and like talk bad about everything that's on TV. So really bored people, and they just would leave the most disgusting comments ever on these. Like, and I met
people that watch TV all day. Like,
yes,
Marlon from Emmerdale's a prick.
Yeah, literally. And
by the way, can I just say, like, Marlon's a legend.
But it was definitely that kind of audience. And I met the creator of Digital Spy once at a party, and he was like, don't ever check the forums.
That's
ever.
not good when the guy
the guy who set it up says it to you. You're like, okay, maybe I shouldn't. But yeah, Twitter was still toxic in those days. It was just a weird dynamic to be 16 years old and read hate comments from grown-ups.
Yeah.
Yeah. But like also a weird dynamic is reading sexually perverted comments at 16 years old from grown men.
Yeah.
Because that is just strange.
Yeah. And did that, like, what was is your first emotion at reading that, like, being hurt, or is it creeped out, like,
with the grown man thing?
Yeah.
I should have been more creeped out, but when you're 16 you're not aware of your age. I don't think you're not like, oh, I'm 16. You're like, I'm a grown up. And that's the dangerous thing.
And what, like, so I remember about a year after you did the show, I remember being in a bar in Belfast or being somewhere, and someone was like, Janet Devlin was here the other week and she was outside smoking. And I remember being like, I remember her from X Factor. I was like, no way. I was like, trust me, I've seen the show. I know her.
Watched it, know her personally. She would never smoke.
She was holding it for, I was like, she's just holding it for someone and I'm out and just holding it.
No, I was a smoker.
Right.
I used to smoke. I honestly think smoking was harder to quit than booze.
There's a weird thing as well, probably when people watch the show and they see how nervous you are and you're there with your parents and stuff, they almost want you to be the person that they think just by looking at you that you are.
Anytime you broke the illusion, people were upset.
Yeah, I was upset when I heard you were smoking.
Yeah. Well, I didn't smoke during the show, but one of the memories I do have was the night I was kicked off because
What stage was that, sorry?
What stage was it? I don't know. It was like 2 episodes from the end of the show.
Right.
I just remember that. And I remember getting kicked off and getting a pack of cigarettes from somebody and just being like, class, going to the part of the building that you couldn't be seen by the paparazzi, just being outside smoking my lungs up, just being like, this is class, and then ordering like Jack Daniels that night to celebrate.
It sounds like Macaulay Culkin in Home Alone 2 when he's in New York in the hotel.
It was so bad. Like, I definitely shouldn't have been smoking. Absolutely. Like, I was way too young to be smoking, but like, you don't think about that kind of stuff when you're that age.
Well, was it like all like low, like the comments and all that sort of thing? Or was there moments like doing X Factor where you were like, what sort of form were you in? Like, was it?
So it was a mixed bag for me because I really suffered with depression. I was not in a good place mentally. Like
during the show?
During the show, before the show.
Right.
Through my teenage years, my depression started at about 12 years old for me. Really sad, really dark. Like, I hate focusing on all that kind of stuff, but I was not a happy kid. And I just remember just like not being in a good place, and I literally had to go get therapy and stuff during the show and see a psychiatrist and all that kind of stuff because I just was not in a good place.
Do you like people say about reality TV like now, like in the last year or so, they're very good at checking that sort of thing before you go on and working with you during it, but probably at that time
no, it wasn't really there. The help was there if you asked for it though. So once I said like I'm not in a good place, like can I get some help, they were able to give me the help, and I got medicated and all that kind of stuff.
But the pressure though that you're going like, and then I remember like, you know, I remember your audition, and then there being a thing of like, oh, they're changing her image and they're making her do this song and that. So like, you're that age, you're depressed, and then every week you gotta like go do a massive performance and know you're gonna be killed for it on
national TV,
International Spy Forum, or
Digital Spy.
Forum.
Yeah,
I'm such an old guy. International
on
Spy
the Facebook. Yeah. No, so I never really read the Digital Spy stuff. I think I took one peek in there and was like, not for me.
Right.
I don't hate myself that much. I hate myself, not that much.
Right.
Yeah, I could handle Twitter.
Yeah.
There was no point in delving into the other side.
And like, yeah, I just remember because what do you do? Now?
I'm 27.
Right. So I remember being like, so I'm 5 years older, but I remember even myself being like, imagine doing it, like the pressure of a show like that. I'd maybe started doing stand-up, but even so, I couldn't imagine the pressure of performing to that many people. But do you look back on it as a bad experience, or like was there positives in it as well?
Oh, there's definitely positives in it. Like, I knew when I was there that I just wanted to like get an audience so that I could go away and like make a career, you know?
Yeah.
I had never really any intention to win it. Like,
Right.
that was never really my goal.
Yeah.
I just wanted
Who was on it the year you were on? Like who went on? Yeah.
Little Mix won.
Oh, okay.
So like that's a good year because at least I can say that the winner went on to be successful.
Yeah.
Whereas like if you're from another year and you name a person and they're like, who?
Yeah.
It's a bit
Yeah.
you're like, oh, so
Yeah.
great.
Yeah. And do you, once you started to make your own music and be more independent, what was the fraudulent record label thing?
So I can't say too much legally, unfortunately, but basically a massive label was set up and it folds like numerous people, like big Grammy award winning producers, big talent agencies in LA, because it was a global agency that was set up. People got like fake plane tickets, like everything was being set up. I was living in a house that was ready for other talent to move in and live in.
Right.
It was mental, but it all fell through. And by that point, I'd already invested like so much of my own money.
You promised like, we're going to do this, we're going to do that.
Yeah, absolutely everything. And
Is this straight after the show?
no, it's about a year after.
Right.
And like I'd already gone on tour, which was supposed to be financed by the label. So it all just kind of fell through. And that meant I had like 35K that needed to be paid for the tour. I had an album that had went over the amount that we'd raised, even though we'd raised a frick ton of money. The money
I think I remember you doing it.
the money was all swindled. Like most of it was just misspent and all this kind of stuff. So that was literally a phone call I got. Basically, it was just like, you're bankrupt.
At
18.
At 18?
Yeah.
More like I'd say a lot of people would have left the industry at that point and done something else.
Yeah.
Let me ask you about that year say, or whatever, in between leaving the show and signing a record deal or whatever, did you go back home after the show, like, for a bit? And if so, what was that like, acclimatizing to being back?
So I'd come back for small visits, and it was just strange, like, because I was a nobody in school. I was really unpopular. I was like a little emo kid that no one cared about, and I went from that to like overnight, because I went back to school after my audition had aired.
Oh, okay.
And I had 3 days of school to endure.
After it had aired?
Yeah.
Because that's not, like, most people would presume, oh, they probably welcomed you, but everyone's like loving it. But that, especially here, I think there's a thing in Northern Ireland of like supporting your own, being proud, but then there's also definitely another extreme side of that, which is like probably people thinking like, how dare you go, and like people being personally offended that you would go and try and do something like.
There was definitely a period of time where the most hate I was getting was from people back home.
Right.
Like all of my hate was coming from back home.
But that's complete insecurity. That's because you've done something that no one would have the confidence to go and.
I don't know. It was just really difficult. It made me like not really want to leave my house.
Yeah.
Whenever I would come back to visit my parents, I would invite my friends down to my parents' house and we'd all hang out there, or like I would try going to bars, but like people were just so incredibly rude that I'd have to leave.
Yeah.
Because people would like literally think nothing of coming up to you and giving you abuse. I once had a girl come up to me as well, and she swung for me. Luckily, like my brother taught me to duck because he used to be a professional boxer, so like I learned to like cover your face and duck.
You didn't then go in with a body shot?
No,
or?
I didn't. Surprisingly not. I held that one back. Didn't really want the press charges. No, so I literally had to get out.
That's wild.
Yeah, it was not fun. Like you think people would have been nicer to you or something, but it was mostly people being mean.
But
and even people shouting abuse at my mum on her way into work.
But like it's different if you like you'd been on TV, but you hadn't like been on trial for murder.
Right.
You'd been on TV because you were singing
songs. Just I was doing glorified karaoke, and there's
people watching that. Oh, for fuck's how dare you?
They hated me for it. I was like, you're really looking into this far too much.
That's nuts, because you have a concept of what it would be like to be on a show like that, and they do that thing where they're like, let's cross over to our hometown here, and everyone's like got the banners and they're loving it. You don't imagine anyone to be negative about it.
Yeah.
But that so no wonder you want to get out of there, and you want to like
just
even at that age.
Just live under the radar for a little bit.
Do you think you had to like grow up very fast?
I already I had a lot of trauma before I did X Factor, so anytime I ever met grown-ups when I was like 16, they were always this like, you're so mature, you're so, old for your age and all this kind of stuff. I was constantly getting things like that, and I would just kind of in the back of my head be like, thank you, it's the trauma.
Right. Yeah.
I'm well-rounded. No, it definitely made me grow up even faster, but I missed out on so many little things. Like I only just got my driver's license.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
And people say it's harder the longer you leave it.
Yeah.
Which doesn't make sense to me, because I'm like, well, you're more sensible. Like,
but you got more fear.
Right.
I think that's where
I passed my test the day of my 21st.
Right.
And only because I think it was my 21st. The guy passed me because I was an okay driver, but there was definitely a point where I made a real bad mistake. And I was like, oh, hopefully I have a good birthday night out tonight. And the guy's like, okay, he passed me.
Oh, fair enough.
What's it like driving?
I haven't actually driven a car since my test. So I own a car. It's just currently getting fixed up.
Right.
So I'm waiting to actually have that moment where I can be behind the wheel on my own.
The first time I drove by myself in my car, I had a Vauxhall Corsa 1 litre.
Nice.
And there was a CD. It was so bad. So my dad's a mechanic. This is a car he worked on, and said to the person, like, you need to scrap this. And they were like, oh yeah, we'll just take it away. And my dad went, my son's about to take his test. If I give you 50 quid, can we just keep it? And the person went, please, you'd be doing me a favour. So my first car was bought for me by my parents, technically, but for 50 quid because it was going to be scrapped.
Yes.
And the first time I got it, I was driving down the Halfords to get some sweet mats for it.
Obviously.
Right? But it was so bad on the outside, but I was like, it'll look okay if I have some nice mats inside.
Yeah, that'll make it way better.
Yeah, and I was going to get like a wee USB charger, all this stuff.
That just gets you all the women, just those mats.
Yeah. But what did really get the women was I had a Lil Wayne album I was listening to at the time.
Jesus Christ on a bike, yeah.
I put it in, CD player.
Yeah.
There's a song Lil Wayne has called A Milli, where he just says a milli over again.
I know the one.
But not like in a Belfast way, you know what I mean? He's like...
Yeah.
Right? And so I normally don't do this, but I was like, you know what, I've passed my test, I'm going to treat myself. I put the windows down and put it up
course you
really
did.
loud.
Of course
like,
you did.
Really loud.
Yeah, obnoxious.
Cruised into Halford's Conswater. Just like this. And I never did that again, but it felt so good to do that for the first time. Driving's class.
So this is what you're telling me to do. When I get my car, I need to go get some sick mats from Halford's.
Sick mats and Lil Wayne, the Carter 3.
Yeah.
And trust me, you'll be like, actually, I judge you for that, but that was incredible.
That was great, yeah.
That was incredible.
I'll text you, I'll let you know.
Yeah. I love driving. Driving's class.
I only did automatic though.
Are you going to do other things that you felt like you could, you missed out on at that age? Like, you could show up at a formal?
Oh, I definitely.
That'd be okay.
We had a formal for our the last year for GCSEs.
Right.
So I did actually get to go to a formal. It was awful.
I did stand up at a formal once, and it was the worst experience I've ever had in my
Really?
entire life.
Why would they think that's a good idea?
There was 3 of us doing stand up, and you know the band General Fiasco.
Aye.
So it's it was
Great
a great
lineup.
lineup. Yeah, it was on at like a local festival. Now you go, that's a good lineup.
I would sneak into that formal.
But this was 16-year-olds who were all drunk. So to do like when you do stand up at something like that, I've learned over the years that less is more when it comes to time. So people be like, do 50 minutes, and you'd be like, yeah, I'd love to. Now it's like, what about 3? What about 3 minutes?
Yeah.
And no one was listening, and then some kid at the formal had been drunk and had to be taken home by a teacher. And for some reason, someone told me that, and I remembered the teacher's name and the pupil's name. So I just talked about that for a minute, and that went down really well because it was of local interest to them.
Yes.
And then I'm trying to move on. I'm like, what about this recession? It was like 10 years ago, and they just didn't care. But yeah, formals are a weird environment.
No, you couldn't pay me.
Yeah.
No thanks.
I
would never do a gig at a formal.
No. What's the weirdest corporate you've ever done, or like
Weirdest corporate
gig in general?
I did a load of weird corporates after the show.
Right.
I just turned up to these just weird events all the time, and it was just the most bizarre concept ever.
Yeah.
It was weird as well. Like, I'd play festivals, and I was too young to stay at the festival because I was 17.
Right.
So I wouldn't even be able to stay.
Right.
And
right.
that was really sad.
Yeah.
Because I was being escorted out of the festival on like the little buggies, and it was just the most
buggy of
depressing thing
shame.
ever. Yeah, it literally felt like it. It was so depressing because it was
Right.
like everybody else as an artist got like day passes to stay, and I
Yeah.
was just like, all right,
Yeah.
see you later.
So I suppose you do, like, when you are able to go, then you are making up for something, or you gotta like.
Yeah, I don't really feel like I missed out on that much though. Like, realistically, it's just like the little things. Like, I think the 2 years that you get like during like your A levels or whatever you're doing, or college or whatever, like just the freedom to just exist,
Yeah.
I kind of missed out on, you know, just being able to chill out in those summers or whatever, because like everybody was getting to like go to these parties and hang out with their mates, and it was like, oh, Janet, are you free? And I'm like, no, I've got this gig, and I've got
Right.
this thing to do, and I've got this thing to do.
But then also we can make mistakes that you can't, if that makes sense. So no
yeah, I
one's going to
couldn't
talk
publicly.
Yeah, if I'm sick in a bowling alley on a student night out, no one's going to really talk about it.
Yeah,
But if you
there's-
are, that's going to, like, someone told me you were smoking. It's like, genuinely,
Yeah.
like, that's true.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
like
yeah.
that's mad to be that age, and like anything you do, people talk about, or
Yeah.
it's in a paper or whatever.
Definitely. Like, I definitely had like 1 or 2 bad night outs where I just got too drunk.
And was this camera phone era?
No, not
That's
yet.
good.
It was BlackBerry
Right.
time, so nobody got it on their
No one could
phones.
afford to send a picture.
Yeah, exactly. It was too
You had to
expensive.
SMS it.
Yeah, like
Not
literally,
happening.
my O2 credit would run out.
Yeah.
No, so like luckily nobody like thought to like photograph that kind of stuff, but
Right.
I've definitely been carried out of a few.
Was there
places.
were paparazzi like taking photos and like?
Paparazzi's not really a thing over here.
Yeah,
but it
no,
was
in London.
In London, yeah, it was a thing. I got upskirted by a paparazzi once.
No.
Yes. I was. and
Did you
that-
know at the time?
I was 16. And I got upskirted, yeah, by a pap. Inappropriate.
How did you see it at that time? You knew it was happening?
Yeah, because I was trying to climb into the back of a Addison Lee, which is the taxi company.
Yeah.
And as I was climbing in, I was obviously aware you couldn't see anything, but like he came under me and took a photograph.
My God. Like, anything happen because of that?
Nope.
Or?
No repercussions. It was just the Wild West.
Oh my.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah, I know.
It's 16 too.
At
like.
16, yeah.
Do you think that, well, like, were you able to, once you started to do your own music and that sort of thing, is there like something you got, like hurdles you got to get over? Like, do you have to like work harder to shake the tag of you've come from this show? And
Yeah, I still don't think I'll ever fully shake that tag.
yeah,
Like, I write all my music, you know, like I I've made these albums and EPs and all that kind of stuff, but people are always just like, they'll never take you seriously.
Right.
And like, I just don't care now. I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
too
yeah.
old and too long in the teeth to really give a crap if somebody doesn't care. Like,
Yeah.
if you like my music, that's great, you know?
Yeah.
If you don't, that's also fine.
But you seem to have a fan base very quickly after the show, like
yeah,
an
some
organic.
stayed and some went, and then I got new fan bases through like YouTube.
Yeah.
Because one of my hobbies at the time was like taking rock songs and just doing piano ballads of them, and just taking songs and turn them into piano ballads. And I ran a YouTube for that, and it took off, and it was getting really, really good hits and all that kind of stuff. So it was doing well. So I got a new audience after the show because of that. And then my latest new audience is TikTok, because the TikTok kind of took off.
Hey, I'm with you. I
Yeah.
was against it for so long. Not against it. I was scared by it because it's not an app I've ever used.
Yeah,
And I'm
and it's
33,
daunting
so
at
I'm
the
like,
time.
yeah.
Yeah. Because I remember trying to make my first few TikToks, and I was like, how does this even work? And I
Yeah.
just felt like such an old person when I was trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
And especially with the trends and all that kind of stuff, I was like, what am I doing?
When you get over 30, you gotta defend being on TikTok. Like people are like, you have a TikTok? I'm like, it's just for comedy.
Yeah.
It's from a comedy. I'm not just on. Like
Yeah.
you never want to be seen as someone that's just on TikTok.
No, I know,
You know,
but
so I'm
this
like,
is
it's work.
it's my issue is like I post like silly videos.
Yeah.
A lot of like, you know, people call it comedy. I hate saying that in front of a comedian, but like just funny videos on TikTok, because that's what made me giggle, and that's what I got known for.
Yeah.
So now I have a whole audience that doesn't even know I do music.
Right.
I'm
right.
like trying to be like, guys, hi, you know, like I have a real job and I make music. Whereas
Yeah.
they're like, shut up and make me laugh, funny
Yeah,
person.
yeah.
Like that's it. So I'm trying to convince them to like buy my stuff,
Right.
which is just.
Because you were doing, I saw you do stuff on YouTube like years ago, like kind of like vlogs and pieces to
Yes.
camera, and that must have been nice to like, because that was like yours, if you know what I mean. So
Yeah, all mine.
talk about that record label that was for like, you know, a machine type thing, but this was like more organic, like this is your own thing.
That's how I got into YouTube, was like, you know, and video editing and all that kind of stuff. It was like, oh, I get to be the producer, like I get to control the narrative, and I get to, you know, put out whatever I want to put out there, and like that's where my passion for that started, you know.
Because you're so honest in what you're saying and putting so much of yourself out there. Was there anything you put out that you regret, like a vlog that you regret, or?
I've definitely said some stuff online where I'm like, why did I say that? Like, absolutely. But I've never really said anything too bad. Like, I have a good team that like allow me to have full creative control of stuff,
Yeah.
you know, but like they tend to watch the videos before I post them.
Right.
So-
right. I need a team.
Yeah. It's useful to have, just so that they can be like, my team's small, like it's very modest.
Yeah.
But they'll, you know, if I put something out, like I've done it where I've made a serious video and they've watched it and they're like, just feel like you could do a better one, and I'm like,
Right.
okay, back to the drawing board, I'll redo it and I'll upload
Yeah.
it. But a lot of the videos that have done well recently have been literally just me sat down openly talking about mental health, or
Yeah.
like how I fixed it, or like my alcoholism and where that, you know, just literally talking about the actual stories itself have done really well. So it's
And the show, the documentary for BBC, feels almost like it doesn't feel like a forced documentary, if that makes sense, or like
yeah.
I don't know, it's just very natural in its approach. A lot of it's
Yeah.
just you talking to other people. There's not like a load of voiceover, and it's just, I don't know, I really enjoyed it, and it's like I say, there's so much in it that I'd never thought about before, whether it's through like being a bit ignorant about it, or having misconceptions or stereotypes of what alcoholism is, or
Yeah.
what an alcoholic looks like, and you said about people not taking it seriously. I probably wouldn't have, you know, if I
Yeah.
saw a vlog years ago of you talking about being an alcoholic, there's probably, because I don't know you, there's probably part of me
Yeah.
that's like, well, maybe you just think that, but like you don't
You're
look like
not
a
really.
46-year-old
Yeah.
man in sweatpants, so you can't
No,
scientifically
exactly.
you can't be an alcoholic.
Because I even had it when I went to rehab, where you did group therapy and you had to sit down at some points and you had to read out some of these awful things that you've done,
Right.
and some of the things that had happened to you because of your drinking. So it was my turn and I had to sit down and read this list. And I swear to God, at the end of it, like the person hosting the room, the psychiatrist, was like, so does anyone actually think that the girl sitting in front of them is capable of doing the things that she's just read out? And everybody was like, no.
Right.
Never would have thought that she would have been capable of doing these things.
Yeah.
And it was that's the moment. That's, I think, why people just don't believe me. And it was even in a room full of other young alcoholics as well,
Yeah,
just
yeah.
being like, no, I could never see that happening.
Yeah.
And I'm like, Jesus. Well, I did it. I just didn't make it up.
like rehab is again a thing where you go, oh well, that's for rehabs for like rich celebrities and it's like a holiday kind of. But I totally get that it isn't.
Yeah.
What made you have to go? Like, what was the point where you're like, I gotta go to rehab?
So basically, I did 3 years sober and then relapsed, and then I went to rehab. And for me, it was like a few things that happened where basically I drank again and then I messed up my personal life. It was, I can't even say what I did really, but it meant that my flatmates, and there was 10 of us, like just hated my life. So it was enough of a
so many flatmates too.
So many flatmates. It was a warehouse in London because, you know, you've got to be cool. Like,
4 flatmates, you can sort something out.
Yeah.
With 10, it's too. You're not all going to be in at the same time.
No, and you have to have a press conference to sort things out. You know what I mean? So I just basically messed up my relationship with my flatmates to the point where I was like, I cannot show my face in this flat ever again. And I just couldn't deal with the consequence, and I just knew that I had to go get better.
Yeah.
So I literally took all my savings out. This was on. So basically, the night I messed up my life on New Year's Eve of 2019, and I had already contacted the rehab whenever I first relapsed, and I'd messaged them about their prices and all this kind of stuff. And I then decided the New Year's Day I'd booked a flight back home, and in the airport I'm literally researching rehabs, calling them up, getting their prices and all this kind of stuff. And I'd already booked in then for a consultation with one of them on the phone, text my mum just as I'm about to board the plane, this big piece that I'm like, I'm going to rehab, blah, blah, blah. I'm just saying this so that I don't back out by the time my feet land on the ground.
Right.
And I just knew that I had to go.
Yeah.
Like, I had no choice. So I had to go to the bank and take out my mortgage money that I'd saved, because rehab's not free.
That probably puts so many people off.
Yeah. I just, the feeling of clearing out your savings just so you can go sit in a rehabilitation center is the most depressing thing ever. But I just knew I couldn't do it on my own. Like, that was it. Like, luckily I had great crack in rehab. It was good fun.
Right.
It was an absolute ball. Like, I had the best time of my life, because it was like a month away from social media for me as well.
Right,
so I was
right.
like, this is class. Like, I don't have my phone. This is amazing. And also, like, I knew that my whole flatmates hated me, so I wasn't in any rush to go back, you know. But yeah, it was, who's going to go to rehab if they know they have to clear out their bank account?
Yeah.
You know, and I was in a very lucky position that I had the money to do it. Not a lot of people do.
If you were going to do things more through like the NHS, or would it have been a far longer wait and a far more difficult process?
Don't think they would have taken me.
See that, and that comes across in the documentary as well of girls you're speaking to, like young women you're speaking to, phoning and being told like, we can't take you, or with no space, or
yeah, it's just the help isn't here.
Because that's scary, because I imagine if you need that help, you just go straight to a place.
Yeah.
And that's
it. And you just check yourself in, and it's
that's it.
la-di-da. Yeah, no, it's not. It's really, really complicated and really, really hard over here. If anyone is listening and thinks that they have an issue, I would say pay for private health insurance and make sure they cover rehabs. Yeah. And then go to rehab. Yeah. Because otherwise you're going to pay arm and leg.
What was it? Like, as soon as you get there, what do you do?
So I think one of the funniest moments was we were sat in the room with the woman who, you know, sits you down and talks to you, and for me, I had my mum, so she was talking to me and my mum, and then she's like, all right, Janet, can you just leave the room and I'll speak to your mum? And then I, like 5 minutes later, get called, not even 5 minutes, it was literally like 20 seconds, and it was like, can you come back in? And it was like, oh, so Janet, you're paying for the rehab. And she basically had kicked me out of the room to talk finances with my mum. Yeah. And I was like, yes, it's me that's paying, because normally like a lot of young people come in and they're on their parents' like health insurance. Right. So I managed to just, that, but I don't know. It was like, what do they even say to you? I don't even know. I just remember the finances being a big thing, because they are like money grabbing. They are like, as much as I want to say that rehabs are this lovely place that you get to like discover yourself, they're also a business. Yeah. You know, at the end of the day. So a lot of it was focused on just making sure you had the money. First, and then you can go see a doctor and talk to like an actual mental health professional. I suppose I would imagine that's going to be expensive, but when you think about if it works like it has for you, like how much that is worth. Oh no, absolutely. Like, and especially with that sad reality of paying your mortgage money to go. It was like, you really put your money where your mouth is and you really want to make it work because you're not getting it for free.
What was the point in there, or was it after? Was there like a moment where you were like, this has worked, or this has had the impact I wanted it to?
It's a really tough one with rehab because so many people go out and relapse straight away.
But is that because there's a sense of like accomplishment? Like, I've done rehab, if that makes sense.
I think it's because you're so depraved from society when you're in there. Like, you're fully removed. Like, you don't even listen to the radio. You don't have a TV. You have nothing. So you're really stripped away from the real world. And I feel like people just go out and go nuts.
Yeah.
And go flat to the mat. And like one of my best mates that I made in there, who's sober now, he went out and within a few months relapsed, but then got sober again.
Right.
So it's a really common thing to go to rehab and relapse.
Yeah.
So I just didn't want to be a statistic. I don't think. I was like, I don't want that to be me. I don't want to have to spend all this money just to have to do it again.
Did you find it difficult to be in bars when you were sober, or was that not the environment that made you
I
drink?
drank alone in my room. So I was a bedroom bar stool person.
So it would have been better for you to be in bars?
I almost.
Yeah.
Literally, like, actually, like, when I'm around people and things, I'm having a good time. I'm having a laugh. It's great.
Yeah.
Me and my own,
right,
not that good of an idea. Like, I moved into my own place recently for 7 months after COVID, and 7 months, and I was like, I'm done with I'm over me. I can't cope with me anymore. I have to go live with housemates again because I just can't cope with being on my own.
Yeah.
Like, I thought, like, oh, I'm so far in recovery, like, I'll be grand. No, I'm still so annoying on the inside.
I suppose as well, you have to, when you come out of rehab and it works, like, in the documentary, people were saying like that's when the hard work starts after rehab. Whereas it's easy to just think once you come out of rehab, then that's it. Like, you've completed it.
No, it's not. It's like the start of it. That's the most depressing part of it. Like,
I don't think of myself as a crier, but then if I see something that gets me, like, it gets me.
Yeah.
And the thing that got me in your program was your manager.
Oh my God, yeah.
Like,
it broke my heart. It
got me. Like,
yeah.
And there were
him talking about his family.
Yeah, there was more. Not to do that at the start, but there was more powerful moments. Other than that wasn't the most, like, I don't think, hard hitting moment on paper, because you have people talking about deaths of family, and the girl in Derry, I think it was Derry.
Yeah, I lost her mum.
Talking about her mum. I mean, that's all so tough but important to listen to.
Yeah.
But it was just the human side of your manager when he was talking about moving you into his house where he lives with his wife and stuff, and and the honesty and emotion in that was
heartbreaking.
Mad. Like,
it was hard to hear too, because obviously we didn't put all of it in.
Yeah.
But there was more than that kind of stuff, which is just like, it's so hard to hear when you're the one that caused the chaos. You're like, oh my God.
But, and was the stuff with your mum difficult to
I had
film?
to zone out with my mum. She threw me under the bus for a good hour. Obviously, not all of it's included. Yeah. But literally for an hour, she threw me under the bus. It was.
But then that's so important for the program.
Like, everything she said, she's already told me, like, we've done family therapy because of rehab and things like that. So I'd heard all of the things before, but it's just like the hardest stuff to hear.
Yeah.
Because I think for me, the moment that always gets me every time is whenever she explains that she's like waiting for the phone call to find out that I'm dead.
Yeah.
That's the one that gets me, because I'm like, imagine that's your life as a mother.
Yeah.
That you're waiting on the phone call to hear from your child. Like, something I'll never understand, because I don't think I'll ever be a mum. But that feeling of like your child potentially dying, I can't imagine having to go through that.
And when you say about your correct me if I've got this wrong, but your mum was kind of screaming at you and saying, like, because at one point she obviously got angry, saying, you know, how does it feel to be a 19-year-old alcoholic, if I've got that right?
Yeah.
I think, so I'm a dad, right? And I think before I would have thought your mum saying that was kind of out of order or harsh or wrong.
Yeah.
But now I'm a parent.
Yeah.
In that moment, I was like, I get why
you would say that.
I get your frustration and all that kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, I understood it at the time as well. Yeah. But the problem with drinking, and I think the thing that people don't understand, and it's really difficult to explain, is because it's the guilt cycle. So sometimes when people come at you with all the truths, like intervention, and they tell you all the horrible things that you're doing to them, and like, because it had happened to me on numerous occasions, like with family members or my team, you know, sitting me down and explaining all the horrible things that were happening because of me. You then feel so bad that you go to your only known coping mechanism, which is alcohol,
Right.
and you stay in this guilt shame cycle and you just can't get out of it.
Yeah.
And that's the truth for like so many people. Like that's how you stay in it, because you actually don't have the ability to sit with your feelings and emotions and guilt and shame in particular.
Yeah.
Like, so you just, like, that's all alcohol is for you, is just this coping mechanism that's not useful anymore, but you're addicted to the substance. So you just continually fill yourself with it.
What's the worst advice that people give you? Is there like a bit of advice people think, you need to hear this?
I think some of the worst advice was whenever I was going to this like free alcohol rehabilitation thing, and they were trying to get me to like responsibly drink. Yeah.
So you say free alcohol, you mean like they're giving, you know?
No.
It's a bottle of Wicked,
It was
put
for
your money
free.
away.
The classes were for free.
Get you.
And it was just going over how you can drink responsibly, basically. And it was just such a bad idea.
On paper, that doesn't sound
It
good.
doesn't sound good. But it was a reduction-based place.
Right.
So it was harm reduction.
Right.
Instead of like abstinence.
Right.
Which for alcoholics, for me
But
personally,
you
is
have
what I
to
believe in.
go. I'd say very few people.
Some people do, and I'm just in such awe that they can go from being fully fledged alkies to controlling their drinking. Whereas for
Right.
me, I'm like, the energy it took for me to control my drinking,
Yeah.
I was exhausted, like, and I couldn't do it. I
Yeah.
couldn't do it successfully. Like, I tried so many times because I didn't want to have to be the sober person. Like, who wants to be sober?
Yeah.
And that's always the thing whenever people say you're not an alcoholic, you're doing it for attention. I'm like, why would I deny myself the fun of drinking?
Yeah.
Like, I'd pick something else, like I being a vegan or something.
Yeah.
Like, that's
Yeah.
a choice.
Yeah.
You know? Like, why would I pick a fun thing like booze?
Yeah.
It just doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, I think 99% of people will understand if you say, like, look, I'm an alcoholic. You also have to take a lot of stick for that. You've got, like, it's such a brave thing to say, especially at a young age, especially when you have a public profile. Is there, I imagine you get a lot of support for it in terms of social media and comments,
Yeah.
but is there people who give you stick for being an alcoholic or talking about it, or...
Yeah, well, yeah, like there's definitely people. I'll post these videos like talking openly about these things, and obviously the comments, like there's people offloading their own stories,
Yeah.
or like, you've helped me. Like I've definitely had people like get sober since they've heard my story, which is weird to say, and it's something that's very surreal even to hear. But then other people leaving comments just being like, no one needs to know, keep these things to yourself.
Right.
And you're like,
Yeah.
sure, Sharon.
Yeah.
Okay, fine.
Oh, it's always Sharon.
It's always Sharon or Karen.
Her profile picture too close to your face.
Yeah. Or like her cat.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just so ridiculous. So I get comments like that, or like, no one cares. And I'm
Right.
sat there and I'm like, this video's got 100,000 likes. I think
Is
some people technically care.
Is there days where like it's very easy not to drink, and then with no logic, can there be a day that follows that where it's really difficult? Or is it like more of a gradual wave?
So because I've quit so many things, I just act out in other ways. So
Okay.
I had it during the pandemic where I had it really tough at the start, where I just was really, really wanting alcohol to the point where I couldn't go to the grocery shop anymore. And I had to Uber Eats in all of my groceries.
Right, not
because-
practical.
Not practical whatsoever, but I just knew I couldn't trust myself
Yeah.
because the vodka was giving me the old wink in the store, and I was like, oh, well, maybe. So I had to not go to the shop. But that didn't last too long. But like, I ended up then picking up smoking again during the pandemic. I quit again, just so we know.
That's good. I'm not gonna
No,
shout.
I
I'm not
quit.
gonna shout.
It's fine. I quit for the saddest reason. I had to get my boobs done. So like, they make you stop smoking.
Is that your advice to people that struggle
Get
to
your
stop
boobs
smoking?
done, and you won't be allowed to smoke.
Guys
So-
too.
Guys too.
And if you can't afford to get them done, getting that soy milk.
Absolutely smash that like there's no tomorrow.
10 pints of soy milk
Yeah.
a day.
So basically, that's what I did during lockdown. Was I picked up the old smokes again, and
Right.
as much of a bad habit as it was, like,
Yeah.
you know, it was still better than drinking.
Why do you have to give it up to get the boobs done?
You have to stop smoking for a month before you get your boobs done.
That feels like your mum or someone's had a word with the surgeon.
And being like, yeah. No, it's something to do with like the blood. Like, there being too much blood because you're a smoker.
Right.
So they make
Still
you
feels
quit.
like your mum's
Still feels
been in
like
touch
they're
with
like,
them.
we'll try and get people to quit. Yeah. So I think I ended up like just having a vape with no nicotine for a little while, and then that obviously gets very boring.
Yeah.
So that's how I got off them again.
Right.
So dumb.
So you replay, like, do you have an addictive personality?
Yes.
Right.
To anything and everything. I've been addicted to the gym before.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
Then, like, I think I, in a way, have addictive personality, but to, like, real bland things.
Oh, very.
Like bananas.
Okay.
Like
Whatever floats your boat, my guy.
But, like, I'll have a... So, like, I definitely do, because I'll have a banana a day with breakfast in my porridge.
Uh-huh.
And if and a wee bit of almond, I'm addicted to almond butter too. I'm
Okay.
addicted to the meal I have for breakfast.
Okay.
To the point where if I go to London for the day,
And you don't get it.
I go and get almond butter separately for like quite an extortionate price, like a full tub in Holland and Barrett.
Yeah.
To just do this, dip it in,
No, but
and then bin it.
I get it, because like I'm addicted to sparkling water.
Oh yeah.
And I get really angsty if I have to
have
a
still.
day without still. Yeah, if I have to have still water, I'm really sad. Like, genuinely, I'm very, very upset. I remember when I first got sober, I got addicted to Diet Coke.
Right.
To the point where I would get the same thing, where I would get like that itchy feeling if I
Mm-hmm.
didn't have it. And I was so effed off if I couldn't have it. And it's so silly because it's just Diet Coke. I
Yeah.
understand that. But for some reason, I would just get addicted to anything.
Yeah.
I definitely remember one of the funniest moments with the smoking thing was also doing CrossFit at the time. I literally...
What do you mean? You mean you were doing pull-ups with a fag in?
Yeah. I literally remember walking out of CrossFit and just lighting up a smoke.
Right.
And I was like, I am one of the worst people living right now.
Yeah.
This is just two things that don't go together
Right.
whatsoever. But yeah, thank the boob job for getting me off those. Life's a good one.
Have you had a good, I imagine you have, a real good reaction to the documentary?
Yeah, overwhelming. Like I'm getting updates from people saying how many weeks sober they are since this came out.
Yeah, I was going to say, you were saying earlier, like, it's weird to some people, like, the people say, oh, that's helped, you've helped. Of course, like, even if it brings a bit more awareness, or even if it starts a conversation, and I think over lockdown to open it up more, definitely the lack of, especially mental health care here in this part of the world was highlighted so much.
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy.
There's no help here
No?
at all. Like, I think we have like 3 psychiatrists that work in Northern Ireland.
Right.
Because I remember I moved home kind of like for 6 months before, like 5 months actually, before lockdown happened. So I was living here for 2 weeks and then flying over to England for 2 weeks. And I remember going to my doctor and being like, hey, I think it's about time I get my diagnosis now. And he was like, well, we have like 3 psychiatrists in the country. So no, that's not going to happen. Basically, unless you go private.
Were you looking for a mental health diagnosis?
Yes.
Right.
I finally got one, but I had to pay for it.
Right.
Because I was like, obviously, I looked at my past and went, I've done a lot of things that are not good. Like, in the sense of, you know, I was self-harming at 12 years old. I was anorexic by 15. I was a fully fledged alcoholic by 19. Like, that just, the math doesn't math. You know,
Yeah.
like, there's clearly
Something going on there.
something's going on, right? Like,
That's what like people would actually say here. Be like, Janet, there's something going on
something's
there.
going on there.
You sort it out.
You're a bit touched.
Yeah. And people were so good at just being like, wise up, sort it out,
Aye, literally.
knock it in the head.
Aye, exactly. So I just knew I had to finally get a fucking diagnosis, because I was like, there's something going on and I should be medicated. After I screwed up my life a few times, completely sober. Like, I've managed to do the dumbest stuff imaginable sober as a judge. And I'm like, clearly something's not right. Something's not right. I went to a psychiatrist, and you do like a little pre-phone call where he kind of gets the idea of like what we're going to chat about. So he basically was like, why have you called me up? And I explained to him the stupid thing that I'd done in my life. I can't even go into it. It's so bad. But basically, I kicked everybody out of my life.
Okay.
Because that was logical in my brain. I thought it was a great idea. Everybody that loved me, get out of my life. And he just was like, I think I know what it is, but we'll do the phone call tomorrow. So I did this phone call, and basically turns out
That he's a bit like, I'll tell you the results after the break.
yeah, literally.
I like
it
how
was
he's
like
done that. Yeah.
cliffhangers. Appreciate it, you know? Just like keep me on the edge. So yeah, I found out that I had borderline personality disorder and bipolar type 2.
Did you think that beforehand?
People had tried to tell me I had BPD before, and I was a bit like, that's rude.
Right.
Because it's the worst mental health diagnosis you can get.
Right.
Because everybody, like, if you know people with BPD, it tends to be like the worst one, because they're the most hated group within the mental health community because they tend to be very selfish.
Who are the most popular?
Who are the most popular? Oh, that's a very good question. Probably the depressed people.
Yeah.
You know, because everybody feels sorry for them, you know, because they're just keeping themselves to themselves and just being depressed.
Yeah.
Whereas, you know, BPD, you're out there
They're
ruining
out there.
other people's lives as well, you know? We love ruining other people's lives. So it's not just...
And you can blame it on other people.
Exactly. You
with
just
the personalities.
Exactly. So yeah, personality disorder, super fun. And
Right.
then you got a mood disorder, which is bipolar.
Right.
So living it on both sides. It's great. I love life. I'm living the dream, my guy.
What makes you really happy?
Oh my god, sparkling water. No, I don't know.
Dan, get a soda stream on that immediately.
Yeah,
And start shaking it
literally.
up.
A lot of stuff makes me happy. Like I'm quite easily pleased. Like I still enjoy like something that randomly makes me incredibly happy is horse riding. I
Right.
did it as a kid. I had horses growing up and things. So like if I'm really depressed, I'll book to go horse riding and I'll feel better. But as far as little things, I genuinely am really easily impressed. Like TikTok makes me incredibly happy because I just like laughing. Reddit,
Have
love
you
it.
seen the guy who does, and it might be more people, who squishes the stuff with the big industrial
Oh
thing?
yeah,
That's the best thing on
it's
TikTok.
so satisfying.
That's the best thing.
Yeah.
Like a watermelon. He does it all.
Yeah.
He'd do a watermelon.
Yeah.
He'll do someone do a mobile phone.
Yeah.
And sometimes he does stuff for colours inside it, and he
bursts.
bursts in some.
Yeah.
TikTok was made for people like me who can just sit and be like, how does he do it?
How does he do that?
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
I love that.
I'm very easily amused. So
Yeah.
a lot of things make me happy.
Do you like the train guy?
Oh, I love him. He's sweet.
Francis? Oh, I've been calling him
Bourgeois?
Francois.
Francois. Oh.
I've elevated him so much. I'm calling him Francois. He's great.
He's great. He's just 100% pure joy.
Yeah.
Like I also just podcasts. I listen to a lot of podcasts
Yeah.
that just bring me pure joy. So I'm just I don't take much to be happy.
Yeah.
Realistically,
Do you do a podcast?
I've started one now. It's not come out yet. I've just started it with my mates because they're all really interesting. They have a lot of fun backstories. Like my first one is with one of my close friends called Konzo, who was a vet in America. He was a soldier. He went on Naked Attraction here in the UK.
You got it out?
He got it out.
Really?
He got it out. Yeah.
I would have so many questions for him.
Exactly. Right. So he's the perfect guest for a podcast. Not only that, he sells his nudes for the fact that he started a charity for a animal sanctuary. So he is selling
So
to fund the animal sanctuary,
to get an operation on a dog's hip, he'll get his knob out.
basically.
That's great.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But people, surely, like, people could just give the money. They're like, no, I'm going to need to see that dick. Just give the cash. I have 20 quid here. The animals need it.
He's very good at his job. We'll give him that, right? He's very good at his job. So there's all my friends are really interesting. So I basically
None as much as Conzo.
Konzo is very interesting, but no, the rest of them are. I have a lot of my friends do sex work as their job,
For charity.
not for charity, for themselves.
Boobs out for Oxfam.
Yeah, literally. That'll be me. I'll start an OnlyFans for like addicts or something.
Do you know people do OnlyFans?
Like most of my friends.
This is something that younger comedians will tell you about, and I don't believe it exists. I'm like, no, it
Really?
doesn't exist.
Oh no, it's real. It's very real.
People are just so confident nowadays. There was far more shame when I was running about. People were just like, here it is. What are you?
What you got?
$250 a month?
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah. No, it's a real job.
That's mad. Is there people who do it that like just do like nice photos? Is there people who just do like fully dressed, like family portrait?
Yeah. Well, because OnlyFans is trying to make itself a platform that's not just for porn.
I think it started as like, if you do a podcast, you have an OnlyFans, and it's like,
Yeah, it's like
it
a
is what it
Patreon.
is. Right.
So it's the same as a Patreon, but they haven't shut down, like Patreon shut down its ability to send nudes.
We're still getting in there.
Yeah. So you're working your way up to selling the dick pics. Yeah.
I'm like, if you do this, we'll adopt a snow
You just
leopard.
make a tier that's like God tier, and it's like if someone pays you 10 grand, you're like, yeah, you can see my dick.
It'd be way less than 10 grand. Way less. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that OnlyFans is a thing. Let's get OnlyFans people in.
You should. They're like, do you know what? Like, because most of my friends do it, They are the loveliest people I've ever met in my life. They are the least judgmental.
I don't judge it at all. I think like
they're just some of the actual best people I've ever met in my life, and they all have really interesting lives and life stories.
My mate knows someone who does it, and she has a jacuzzi in her house just to do content from
streaming.
it. And he's like, it looked great, but then I saw her hands at one point. And they were like so badly like wrinkled, like so bad. He's like, she'd been in there for like 12 hours shooting stuff. Yeah. So that's the price you pay, is like potentially your hands.
Old people hands.
Yeah, old people hands.
You know, but you
good bank balance.
Yourself to stuff. Yeah, the bank balance, absolutely.
What have you got any Belfast gigs come up or anything? You do anything locally?
Yeah, in September I'm coming over and I'm playing the Limelight.
Nice.
I'm also doing a wee gig in Dublin. So
I love the Limelight.
I love it. I have lots of memories because I used to be an emo kid, so I used to come up to the Limelight and watch loads of bands play.
What sort of bands? Like,
oh Jesus!
When I think emo, I think My Chemical Romance.
Too big to play the Limelight, man.
I know, yeah, of course, but just like
that kind of genre, yeah. So it was like Kilhanna and like who no one knows, just a bunch of bands that nobody's gonna know if I name them. So there's no point. But they were all great, and I loved it, and I was very, very badly dressed at the time.
Isn't it weird to have gone, because I would have gone to Limelight a lot for gigs and nights out whenever I was younger, to like do shows there? Like, do you think it's weird to be in a place and now be like, I used to come here and now people are coming here for me?
Well, the Limelight will be my first one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Like, apart from like the Strull Arts Centre, but I never went to the Strull Arts Centre as a viewer.
I did a show at the Strull, but 12 people showed up. This was years ago.
Oh, okay.
It was too ambitious to do it. There was a few of us.
It's like a 300 cap. Yeah. So okay.
We could have done it, honestly, in the disabled toilet, the gig.
Oh no.
Like, no bother, and there would have been room. But like, yeah, we did it and there wasn't that many people there and it was sad. But you're doing the Limelight. Where are you playing in Dublin?
I don't remember.
Could be
anywhere.
Whelan's?
It's not. I played Whelan's last year.
Oh, okay.
Which was class. Yeah. But I honestly can't remember the name of the place. I'd never heard.
Is it a UK tour? You're doing a UK and Ireland tour?
So my rehearsals they've already started, but I go on tour next week. Sometime.
What's your rider? Sparkling water?
Yeah, sparkling water, energy drinks, and that's it for me.
I don't have a rider.
Then I have like 5 beers for the band.
Okay, that's a nice touch.
Yeah.
So the Workman's Cellar. You're doing the Workman's Cellar.
Workman's Cellar. Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much.
Workman's is another great spot.
I've never been, so I don't know. But
I don't have a rider.
You don't have one at all.
You pay for it, so like you may as well like just bring it yourself.
Yeah, I think that's what we're doing on this next tour. I think we're just bringing it ourselves. I think I'm just Amazon Monster and then Amazon sparkling water.
You'll never look back. I have done gigs walking in with like an 18 pack of waters on my shoulder, and I'm the main act, like.
Yeah, but it makes more sense.
Yeah.
So that's why we're doing it on this one.
Yeah.
So, but that was my rider, which was just 2 beers each for the boys, and then the sparkling water Monster.
You know what? Sometimes I'll get a fruit platter.
Really? Push the boat out.
And I want it to be.
But they're always really sad.
No, here's what I specify. Fruit platter, mainly cantaloupe. Big fruit platter, but I want a lot of it to be cantaloupe. I want the centre of it to be dominated by cantaloupe.
Why?
It's the best melon. It's potentially the best fruit. You'll find a lot of people are into fruit, but anyone who's into fruit is in the cantaloupe, if that makes sense.
There is a fruit hierarchy going on in your brain, and I'm trying to figure it out.
Cantaloupe's top. Watermelon is a good idea.
Okay.
But in theory, it's it's mainly water.
I think that's in the name.
Well, that's a good point. That's a very good point. So they're not lying to you about it.
No.
But when you eat it, there's a lot of water.
Really?
And very little like the melon's almost like it's very opaque, and the melon.
Would that be why the water is on the front half? It's almost like to warn you that the melon is secondary to the water.
Yeah, it's like, you know, when you have fish and people are like, there's only like 12% fish in this.
Oh yes.
Watermelon is the melon equivalent of that, whereas see, cantaloupe, just melon. That's all it is. Yeah. Melon, there's very little water in it.
Are you offended if I say that I don't like melon, but I love fruit?
No, if you said you just like watermelon, I would hate that.
Okay, yeah, fair. I wish I said that.
You don't like fruit?
I love fruit, just don't like melon.
Oh, right, okay. But that's weird to me.
Yeah, of course.
Because I know a lot of people who just like melon and don't like fruit.
See, I hate melon. No, I just can't cope.
Right.
I'm a basic bitch when it comes to fruit, you know,
Right.
bananas,
I am
strawberries.
not. I love a platter. Love a platter, but I'm more like that when it comes to veg. Like I like veg, but I have only ever been into the veg I'm into. Do you know what I mean? Like my options aren't open when it comes to veg.
No, you're
if you
closed
told me,
book.
oh, there's this new vegetable out, I wouldn't be
It
interested.
happens all the time.
No, people. Well, 10 years ago, if you said avocados would be popular, people
Oh,
would
no,
look at
that's
you like
fair.
you had two heads.
Yeah. If you're making avocado on toast 10 years ago, people would be like, what?
Yeah, you'd be in jail.
Yeah.
What do you do with the middle bit
Well, you keep it in. So
for the peelers?
you cut it in half and you keep the little thingy in it so that it keeps it from going off. So if you wrap it in cling film and you keep the little, I don't know if it's a nut or whatever the fuck it is, a seed, you keep that in there so it doesn't go off.
That's my mind blown. Because see, with an avocado, I'll always bin whatever I don't use straight away.
But if you keep it in,
well, I know that now.
yeah, well there you go.
I know that now.
There you go. That was the whole reason of me coming on. Just to
What's
share
mad
that.
is I've watched an hour-long documentary about you talk about alcoholism, and the main thing I've learned and will take away is that if you
avocado.
keep the thing and we can't decide what it is inside the avocado, it'll keep it fresh.
Yeah.
Genuinely, if people like, because there will be people watching this like who watch the program and took something from it and whatever. What is the first thing people should do if they're having an issue with alcohol or?
It's a really tough one because honestly, I've considered now going and getting a qualification in being a sober coach. It's something I'm actually really might take seriously.
Well, it'd be crazy if there was people who did that didn't have the type of experience that you've had.
Yeah, but it's something I want to do because I get so many messages every single day from people asking for advice, and I've had it now to the point where, you know, I tell people how I got sober because that's all I know is my own lived experience. So I'm like, hey, this is how I got sober. And they're like, oh, I tried AA and it didn't work for me. And I'm like, well, conversation's cut here because I can't help you. So it's something I've been taking seriously is maybe going and becoming a sober coach on the side just so that I can give better advice to people.
Yeah.
Because I think that's the thing. Like once I've opened up now about being an alcoholic, a lot of people do come to me for advice on it, and I don't think it doesn't seem like it's ending anytime soon is what I'm saying. Like, so I feel like I need to educate myself so I can help people a little bit better along with that. So but like for me, that's my only advice, you know, like if you think you've got a problem, it sounds really cheesy, but it's always that first step of having a problem is admitting it to yourself, and once you've done that, you've taken the biggest step. The second thing is then about getting help. So you know, you can go to your doctor, but there's not really that much your doctor can do for you unless you really, really are in a bad way and you might have like actual medical issues now because of it. The best thing you can do probably is going to AA. And I think the funniest thing about AA is you realize that there's this whole underground society existing without the rest of the world knowing. Like if you look up your local town, there's an AA meeting.
Yeah. And also, off the top of my head, I don't know anyone that's ever been to AA, but I am sure I know hundreds of people, if that makes sense.
It's so true. Yeah, because everybody keeps it so, especially here, it's very down low. It's very secretive. It's like, it literally is a secret society. It feels like you've joined the Masons or something because nobody talks about it. Like to the point where, like if you see somebody out and about who's from AA, you can't even acknowledge them in this country.
You can't even.
You have to pretend like you don't know them because how else do you know that person? It's very weird, but there's a lot of good recovery in the rooms. Like there really, really is. Like especially in places that you find there's a massive drinking culture, there's a massive recovery as well. Yeah. So there's always help out there, and like that's what worked for me, and that's all I can say to do is just try it. And if it doesn't work the first time, just kind of keep going.
Yeah.
Like because if you really want to get better, you'll do absolutely anything. And they say like 90 meetings in 90 days. Just do it. Just do the 90 meetings in 90 days and see what happens. Because at least then, if at the end of it doesn't work, at least you tried it. Yeah. But going to one meeting and saying, oh, it didn't work for me. Yeah. I'm always a bit like, nice, good try. Yeah. You went one time. Yeah. Because it's just the same as anything. You can have a bad meeting. Like it just might not be exactly what you needed to hear, whatever the story is. But there will be a meeting that somebody will say something that just clicks. Yeah. So just going once isn't going to save your soul, you know.
All right. Well, look, thank you very much. The program's absolutely brilliant. It's on iPlayer. Will be on iPlayer for. See, here's the thing. Sometimes it's say 30 days, but then sometimes it's on longer than that.
Yeah, I don't know. Nobody said anything to
me. It's available for a while.
Yes. So watch it now before it disappears.
Okay. The name is, and I'm gonna guess this.
Okay, go.
The name is Janet Devlin. colon or what's the two
Something.
dots? There's a colon.
Colon.
Janet, it's not Janet Devlin, colon. It's Janet Devlin, 2 wee dots. My?
No.
Alcohol?
No.
And me?
No.
Okay. It's
Good try.
It's
Young female and addicted.
young female and addicted
Yeah.
is what it is. But there is, I'm pretty sure there's a colon in there. I'm sure of that.
I just love how you asked me what it was, and I'm an author, like a technical published author, and I was like, no idea.
Yeah.
It's just the 2 dots to me.
I know there's the 2 dots. Yeah, it's a fantastic show, extremely brave thing to talk about, and
thank you very much.
I have a lot of respect for you for doing that. It's a great show, and thank you very much for coming on.
No, thank you for having me.
It's great to meet you. I'm glad we're agreed on fuck soy milk though.
Oh yeah, the true hard-hitting issues.
And now I will be referred to as
A soy boy.
a soy boy. We'll also put the link for the Belfast show, for the Limelight show, in the description as well.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you very much.